Danny here. Queen Glitter Chaos. More Schmoo with DD Speed Shop. Also, can we just shout out to Mother DD Speed Shop for this excellent sweater that is like a hug. Anyways, so one of the things that Dan and I have been talking a fair bit about is
You're not in frame.
my head is in frame. I can see.
Rule of thirds.
Maybe they want to see up my nose. You never know.
Thirds.
Anyways, listen, Linda. Well, now I'm off track. So Dan and I have been talking. He's just staring at me like
Get on with your Dremel. Let's go.
So we've been talking about what makes staging a car so important. A lot of folks ask us how do you take a car, maybe not to necessarily flip it, but making a car look like a car, and why it's so important, and how the value instantly changes as soon as you do that. So, Mr. DD Speed Shop, sir,
I'll let you know my secrets.
can you please tell us your wisdom?
So, how I buy cars and how I sell cars, very different. If you're looking at an ad and the car looks good, it's got nice wheels on it, all these things, bunch of pictures and all that, everybody's gonna want that car. So the car I go after, 2 pictures, taken terribly, clearly old guy stuff, phone number in the ad, because millennials are too scared to call.
Hey, that's true, but you don't have to say it like
You don't
that.
call or answer the door.
Okay, here's the thing though. Answering the door is scary. And why are people ringing doorbells? Just don't. If I don't know you're coming over, don't come over.
So, those are the people you want. You call them, you talk to the 99 times of 100 an old timer. How's it going? You get a vibe. It is what it is. You show up on time. If you're gonna offer money, you have that money in your pocket. And even better if you have a way to take it away right then and there. Piece of paper and a pen for a bill of sale, and you're set. That's how you get the deals. But you're gonna buy cars that are probably taken apart, miscellaneous stuff is being missed, you're taking a gamble. I've gambled on a lot of cars, and I think for the most part, I always kind of win in the end. You hope for the best. Because the cars are gonna be in a garage, boxes on them, or oh yeah, I took that apart and I put it in this milk crate, and is every piece in there? Who friggin' knows? But you're hoping so, and you gotta take a flyer on it. Obviously, as you guys know, you make money when you buy a car, not when you sell it. And hopefully you have all the stuff. So that's how you find the deals like that. Selling a car, you want.
I have a question actually before we move on to the next subject. Sir, I have a question. Me? Pick me?
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that
Probably.
say pre-hunting a car, right? So let's say you know a guy, he's got a car, and you ask him about buying it, and he's like, no, I'm not ready to sell it. How do you potentially maintain a relationship for that if that's what happens?
I don't see that. For me, I don't think I've ever gotten a car that I've been hunting and wanting forever. Because 9 times out of 10, if there's a car out there that's visible and I can see it, other people can as well, and I'm not the first guy knocking the door, right? So I think those cars end up going for big dollars. Case in point was that Charger we looked at when we went and bought your Caprice. Thing was sitting out front. The guy was mowing his grass.
We sent that guy a letter actually.
Sent him a letter. I knew what the car
years ago.
He never got back to me. Get out, talk to him. Classic old timer. It'll sit there and rot, or you can give me 35 grand or whatever the crazy number was for a rotten out, see through the floor Charger, right? Because he just in his mind, and I'm coming there. I'm coming for this guy because he had it out front on his lawn and he liked looking at it.
That's a sentence I've heard before.
I like looking at stuff. I don't need the money. I don't need the 8 grand for the car, but being able to look at it is cool. And a lot of times that is the deal with old timers. If they're not ready to sell it, they probably don't need the money. Why would they let it go?
So what other tips should people know for making their purchase?
Well, I guess know your skill level for one, and just decide what you want to do. And I will say YouTube and the hacks that are all flooded the YouTube market with videos have kind of given some false hope, maybe, I don't want to say it like that, but for cars that are pretty rough, and I am that guy, where you have a car, which ultimately I'm in a trap now where I can't really buy a nice done car because the goal is to make a bunch of videos. So these YouTubers will go out, they'll buy a ratty car, or roadkill, or whatever it may be. They'll buy a ratty car, they'll screw license plates to the ground, they'll make the front brakes work, they'll make it so it runs and drives. And on camera and all that, the car looks cool, they're having a blast, all these things, and the car gets put to the wayside. And it is, streetable is a very loose term, but it's not safe by any means. And having seen some of those style cars up close, you go, whew, like you wouldn't want to hop in that thing and go on a road trip. So they do all that stuff, and we're the same. We're not like fabricating drama, but it happens. When you buy these old junkers, you want that. So you can't buy an easy one. Now, if you want to buy a car and you want to just have a nice driver for yourself, you can kind of tinker on the weekends with your buddies and stuff like that, buy something better. Buy the best car you can possibly afford. You'll save money and time down the road, because if you don't, you'll be excited, you'll bring it home, you'll rip it apart into pieces, which you've seen this thing, and then that is where you lose interest.
And then that is where DD's Speed Shop swoops in.
Dan here, DD's Speed Shop, $700, I'll take it home. That is how so many cars, I mean, Danny's car's been like that, my 55 was like that.
Your Nova.
The Nova was literally on a rotisserie. These, forgotten, stripped apart, I mean, the 68 especially, left for dead.
With a bunch of new stuff with it.
The convertible was literally in a wrecking yard. Well, the 57 hardtop, like a body in a guy's backyard that they had decided to make into a race car and lost interest. I mean, the kit car, which we've also lost interest on, was just literally a kit car that never got put together. I'm sure all the cars were at some sort of point had a story like that.
Well, the kit car that you're bringing up is actually kind of a good example, because so the kit car stayed in the box. Like, I think the guy took it out of the box once, and then it stayed in the box until it ended up going up for auction. We brought it home, and you made it into a roller, which instantly made it more valuable. First, you took it from out of town and brought it into a city.
And I know what it has and what it doesn't have.
You know what it has, you know what it doesn't have.
It was a gamble.
And then it's no longer in that box, and it is semi-assembled.
Sure. You can see the vision of it.
Yes. So I would imagine that would make it a lot easier to, if like the right person came to buy that car. It's a very unique car, so it's maybe a bad example of this.
You're seeing the model on the box, not the parts inside, yes.
Which makes it you've done a lot of the heavier work to make it saleable.
Sure. Scammy.
Oh, so I thought that you were just like, boom, ready to go.
Oh.
So how then do you, on the rare occasion that you do sell a car, which has happened before, how would you take a car and make it saleable then?
So.
Sellable? Saleable? Sellable?
I think it depends if you're in the South or not, that's all the same. Bowl of peanuts. So the Camaro is actually a really good example of that. So obviously I think this one's going to be for me as a keeper, but the 68, which when I bought them, again, I was a province away, 9-hour drive. Here's 2 cars, miscellaneous parts list, this much money, don't haggle, yes, no, do you want it? Took a gamble, I don't even know what I had.
Actually, that is a great point right there about the don't haggle. What is a respectable, because everybody wants a deal. You always want a deal. Especially like in Manitoba, we are deal people. It's crazy. How do you respectfully, not lowball, but respectfully offer amount less than what is being asked for?
Well, you know, everything's different. So my opinion on that is you only deal in person, and whatever you offer, your man of your word, you have in your pocket.
So you're not sending the message on Facebook saying, would you take $1,200 instead of if they're asking $2,000?
If I have on there in the first question is what will you take for it? Read the ad, I write back. Or whatever. Or will you take this? Absolutely not. But if you come in person and you're a good guy and I just want it gone, it's a whole different situation. I think realistically, I mean, if I had this Camaro up as is for, let's say, $30,000, which is clearly not worth that, it's probably worth 10 or whatever if I was going to sell it, I'm out of my mind. I wouldn't even contact that guy because the odds of him coming down to a reasonable price are just not going to be there. If this was for sale for, let's say, 15 grand, in my head I'm going, okay, well, I know what I would like to pay for it. We're in the realm. That's still like a third off. But if you show up, cash in your pocket, tow truck or a trailer ready to go, and you're a reasonable individual and this and that, and part of it is the guy wants to see it go to a good home, that's where I'm at now. I got so many cars that I'd rather see the car go to a good home than actually get every last penny out of it. So I can't really give you a percentage point or something like that. A lot of guys too, they'll put it up there and this is how much I want, firm. I just did that with the wrecker. Like when I sold the wrecker or the tow truck, this is how much I want, dead firm. Everybody was $500, $600, whatever. And the guy I actually sold it to was, will you take this? No. Well, how about this? No. And I told him, I said, I'm not budging off the price, so we're done here. Then he says, okay, I'll pay full price, I'll be there first thing in the morning. And he was a super nice guy in the end. He wasn't trying to he was trying to save money for himself, and I get it. Every dollar counts in today's world or everyday world, but you just gotta decide, do you want to sit on it or not? And you also have to know what you have. A first generation Camaro, it's gonna drive a higher dollar, and he's probably have a whole lot more people knocking on his door to buy it than like a 4-door 64 Chevelle or something like that. So you gotta be aware of those things. If you want a nice car now, you're gonna pay. You're not gonna find the Camaro in the barn or whatever. They exist, I shouldn't say never, but some little old lady or whatever with the internet and all that, everybody knows what stuff is worth, so just be aware of that. You're not gonna get it for pennies on the dollar anymore.
So now that we're back from that little sidetrack, which was very well said, might I add. So how would you then stage a car for sale? So you're talking about, what's the other one, a 68 Camaro?
Yes. Dan here, DD Speed Shop on coattails with more schmoo. So that 68 Camaro, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. People, it drives me crazy. I don't want to say this out loud, but it probably will be for sale. And people are going to be messaging and all that. It's not for sale today, but it is for sale. I'll put it up there and you'll know. And that might be one we try and pull a greasy Mortsky and sell it to an unsuspecting viewer. I mean, loyal supporter. But that 68, I'm pretty sure it's sitting there with no fenders, no hood, no doors, no interior, no glass. I think it's just, it has a subframe on it, the wheels, I think it probably has flat tires, all those things. It looks atrocious. But we take it home. Actually, the quarter panels are literally just kind of sitting on there. But that's the same as this. So like these quarter panels, they're just skins. Like they're held on with 3 screws. There's nothing behind them. But it looks cool. And I do it because it's motivating for me. So
well, it looks like a car. And that's always the first thing you do when you bring a car home. You put it all together. You put wheels and tires.
I'm a big believer in that. So now when I walk by this thing, I'm excited. So I spend a lot of time taking cars off jack stands, putting wheels and tires off and all that. Because I mean, this thing, I put it all together just so it looks cool for the next 2 weeks. So while I'm waiting on parts, I'm excited to work on it. If it was just sitting there ripped apart on the rotisserie and all that, it's like, oh, what a drag to work on it. Anyways, so that's how I am. That's how I assume somebody would want to buy it. So this thing, the first thing I did was I put a set of wheels and tires on it, powder coated black with poverty caps. It ain't for everybody. I love this look. I'm excited about it. I'd hang the doors, hang the fenders. There's literally just a few bolts holding this thing together. But whatever, it looks like it's like I kind of look behind it. It's rotten behind it. The hood, this hood was like some weird greeny color with like racing stripes on it, fogged it black with a rattle can, just so it looks kind of matches, right? And at a glance, it looks like a car. This would sell versus that 68, which is sitting there with no doors, no fenders, no hood, no glass,
it
flat
looks
tires.
like a nightmare.
It looks like scrap metal, and you have to realize, I mean, so that's just it. To the average person, they go, oof, like that's nothing. Meanwhile, if you walk by and saw this now, you'd be like, hey, there's a cool car down the block. It looks really nice, even though it's garbage. Like it needs lots and lots of labor yet. But this is the old, you're selling the sizzle or whatever it's called. This is what the car will look like. I mean, this is the car. The only thing that's gonna be different is the quarter panels will be welded on and the gaps will be adjusted. It's rotten underneath and nothing's attached properly yet, but that'll come with time. But this is what it's gonna end up looking like. And that's what you have to sell these people. unfortunately, that's where you it's like the teeter-totter of being greasy, right? I would feel, I mean, honestly, like a 16-year-old kid came up here and his dad didn't know anything about cars, and they're like, we love it, we'll buy it. And look, no, man, like really be aware of what you're buying here. This is a lot of work, this car. Like I wouldn't just take their money and run. I'd make sure they were 100% aware of what they're buying. Because I can have this car stripped apart in like an hour and then come back and, is that what you want? They go, oh no, like it's bad. You know, like really be aware. And there's a lot of greasy people out there. I mean, like I don't want to say any auction house names or whatever, but that's the goal, right? Feed guys a bunch of beers, make the car look as nice as they can and shiny under the lights, and who knows what you're really buying. So just be aware. I guess maybe you're going to buy a car, bring a friend who knows. That's another good example. I've had a few of those. I mean, you know, we years ago now, I had that 70 Chevelle that I sold, and that's the car I probably regret selling the most. It was a good car. That was before the YouTube channel, or maybe right early on.
It was right early on.
So we weren't making any money on YouTube. Money was tight, and I bought that car for like $3,000, $3,500. And it was a good little car. I put it in storage. I mean, it was very similar to these, had quarters put on poorly, but it was a runner driver. It had tags on it. We drove it for a summer, I think. And it had a few things going against it. It was green on green, which I hated. So it was gonna be a big job to switch it over to black. I was like, oh, fine, or black interior and whatever color outside. I was like, well, we'll find one. I haven't seen another 70 Chevelle in that shape in 5-6 years, and I look everywhere. At this point, I'd pay up for one that was decent. And anyways, that was someone had given my number or contact info to the guy who wanted it. And he says, you know, hey, we take $4,000. No, we take $5,000. No, we take $6,000. No. And I think I got like $8,000 or $9,000 for this car, which I paid $3,500. And which I told the guy, it's not worth that. I was realizing that I was being unreasonable in what he was offering a fair price for it, probably in the $5,000-$6,000 range. I just didn't want to sell it yet. And it got to a point where it was like, this is how much. I said, okay, we'll come look at it. He came out, it was in a storage unit. He brought his body shop friend to look at it. Oh yeah, this, that, the other, great car. He bought it, I took the money, and I don't even know what we bought after. I remember not having the car though, I tell you that. And it was gone. And a couple weeks later, he sent me a message saying this thing's rotten and it's unfixable. Well, I didn't think so. I thought it was very fixable. And then I find out after the fact that the car ended up getting parted out. It was a driving car with tags on it that I was driving, and there was hidden rust in spots that you didn't know, which I didn't know. And I don't know if he thought I was guilty of it, but he took the fender off and the lower cowl section had some rust in it. I don't fix it. They sell the panels. I don't really know what the issue was, but I saw the car, parts of the car for sale. Like the chassis was for sale, the glass was for sale, the interior was for sale. I'm like, what's going on here? That's what happened. The car got parted out. And then stuff like that drives me crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I wish we still had that car, but we had no money at the time.
So speaking of that, because this is a good example too, if you were that person, say, or your advice to somebody in that situation where they buy the car, they had a friend come look at it, and then there's this hidden stuff that you didn't expect to happen, do you part it out, or do you go back to the seller and see if they want to buy it back? Like, what would you say is just sort of decorum in that situation?
I mean, at that point, that guy, so he bought a driving car from me, he overpaid, which, I mean, I don't know, I thought I was very clear on it. He wanted the car, he wanted it bad. Like, he harassed me for 6 weeks to buy it. So it was gone. He takes it all apart. So now you have a car that's essentially worthless. Like he took all of it apart and then realized, I can't fix this. Okay. What's he gonna do? Call me back, say, hey, you wanna buy this car and pieces back for list? Like, what's it worth? I mean, at that point, I paid $3,500 for it, sold it for whatever, $8,000 or $9,000. It's probably worth $1,500. Like, he parted it out to probably try and make as much money back as he could. And in his defense, maybe in his good conscience, he couldn't put it back together and try and flip it for big dollars because he knows it was a rough car, right? I knew it was a rough car. I knew exactly what it was when I bought it. That was fine. I was happy with it. It's just the old one man's garbage, one man's treasure or whatever. It was my treasure, it was his garbage. It just went the wrong way. And then, I mean, I don't know what to do. I mean, in his defense, he probably tried to make as many dollars back on that thing as he could, you know, and carry on. I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that one. Because unfortunately, I have been the guy that buys a car for less, far less than somebody has invested in something. And that's just nature of the beast. You can't really feel bad about it. It happens to all of us. I mean, I remember early on when I was still living at MERS, I bought a 67, maybe even a 68 Firebird. It was like $1,200, and it was a 6-cylinder automatic. It was red. It was roached, and like roached bad. The rear frame rails were broken. The springs were in the trunk. I was like, oh, I can fix this. Then life happened. I think I ended up moving out. It ended up going out in storage, and then I had family friends. Storage had to go away, and the car ended up getting parted out. For like free. I lost all the money on it, which I mean, $1,200 at the time, but still, that was a lot of money to me.
Well, I was just gonna say $1,200 if you just moved out is a lot of money.
That was what had happened. I had $0. I was in the garage with there's 4 lights in it, no power. I had no tools, no heat, very limited skills, more limited now even. And the car ended up, parted out and shredded. That sucks. So I was that guy. I didn't lose, $5 or $6 grand, but I lost $1,200 when $1,200 was a lot of money at the time. Still is now.
So, all that being said, how would you sum up buying and selling a classic car?
It's a terrible hobby. It's brutal. Nobody should do it. You lose money, you lose time, grind your gears. I don't know, you gotta learn your lessons, right? That's always how it goes. Be smart, just like anything. If you can, look at something, let it sit for a day and then buy it the next day. Unfortunately, you take the risk of, it going. Depending, maybe the seller would be cool. Maybe you could give them a couple $100, they hold it for 24 hours, and then, you lose $200 instead of $2 grand or whatever the cost may be. But he holds it for a day and you can think about it. I mean, I don't know. Just be smart about it. But realize that cars are a grind. I didn't know when I bought this. I was very naive, which is kind of how I go through life in general. But looking back, I should have bought a Camaro years ago, because I thought, man, like $7,000 or something like that for a Camaro that was I thought kind of mediocre, where $3,000 would buy you a Pontiac Le Mans that was way nicer. You're like, good God, I'll buy the Le Mans. Then you find out that a quarter panel on a Camaro at the time was probably $200, and at the time I was probably paying $500 for a Pontiac quarter panel because they're less popular or whatever it is. So realistically, they probably would have cost me the same in the end. I would have had, you buy the Camaro for $7 grand and then toss $1,500 into it, or you spend $3 grand in Le Mans and you got to toss $3 or $4 grand into it. So do a little bit of research, I guess. Maybe that's always good advice that I never follow, but stuff like that. And really just, if you're not addicted to it, buy a new car. I mean, that's, I don't know, buy a done car, I should say. I could have $1 million in the bank and I'd still have bought this car. Probably still in this garage with the same tools. My little grinder and a welder, and we'd put her together. So, I don't know, I don't want to just buy collector cars and store them. I want to build them, drive them, and there's a dent in this. But when somebody says, where did you get this car? I built it. This car is going to have every new bit of sheet metal, motor trans, rear end, floor pans, interior. Where'd you buy it? Well, I bought the roof skin from Saskatchewan. The rest of it I did myself, right? So.
Well, you brought up a good point there too, actually, about how you don't have to have a giant shop out in the country or big space in the city. A lot of people I know get hung up on that.
Have you not seen the internet? You need an acreage, a big shop, 2 or 3 trailers.
But you're doing this with tools from our version of Harbor Freight, Princess Auto, Canadian Tire, Home Depot,
Mer shop.
The shop of Mer. This is the space. We live in the city. It can be done.
Speaking of which, take me out for lunch.
Sounds good, baby.
And on a happy note, I'm hungry.
Thanks for watching.